Let me start with Caleb Maupin. Caleb, is what's going on, the conversations between Xi and Kim, is this pregame strategy?
Well, it's very significant. I mean, the relationship between China and North Korea goes back decades. I mean, we should not forget that Mao Zedong, his own son, actually died in the Korean Peninsula. And, there is a long-standing relationship between the People's Republic of China and the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. They were aligned for many years. I know during the late Mao era, there was a falling out because North Korea aligned with the Soviet Union, whereas China was arguing that the Soviet Union was they were calling it social imperialist, and saying it was the main danger to the world, and meeting with Nixon and getting friendlier with the United States. But at this point, China and North Korea are economically tied. I think North Korea's economic ties are the closest with China of any country in the world. And, the fact that it's been 14 years since any Chinese head of state has visited North Korea, I think that in itself is more telling. I think, if anything, as China has tried to maintain a friendly relationship with the United States, part of that has been not being as blatantly and close and friendly with North Korea. So the fact that as Trump continues his trade war of tariffs and just, escalating, efforts to undermine China's economy, as that happens, the fact that China has now had its head of state go and visit Pyongyang, and I mean that's making a statement that, look, why should they not just fully embrace North Korea? The United States is going to be so hostile to them. I think that's how you can interpret this. And if anything, the fact that there hasn't been an official state visit for 14 years was probably a gesture of favor and sympathy toward the United States. It was the United States, look, we know North Korea is not your favorite person, so we're going to back off from them a little bit. But with this trade war going on, what reason do they have to play ball like that? North Korea is their neighbor. It's their trade partner, long-standing history of the two countries together. And, why shouldn't he go there and shake hands and solidify their relations further?
Caleb Maupin, Donald Trump has proven to be a very transactional kind of guy. He hasn't really demonstrated to me long-term strategy. And a lot of what he does seems to be like his real estate deals, one-offs. And I don't say that as a criticism. I just say that as an analysis of his mentality. That there does not seem, even looking at Iran, what people should be asking is, what's the long-term game plan here? What are you planning 15 years from now with what you're doing now? Where is this supposed to end up? Where is this supposed to take us? So Trump being a transactional guy, Xi being a long-term strategy guy. I know you've read his book. I don't know if he's called you lately to get you to give him insight, but you have a fairly good understanding of his thought process, having read his book. I know that Xi has talked to Vladimir Putin, who is another long-term, long strategy, big game thinking guy. So what's your sense of these dynamics? First of all, is my assessment accurate? And then if that's accurate, what's your sense based upon those differing approaches to these issues?
Last year, I had the honor of attending the Yalta Economic Forum in Crimea, where there were people from all over the world, business owners, people involved in different, government-run industries across the world, and different banking institutions and such, all gathered in Crimea to discuss the economy, and I heard a lot of different insights. And having been there and having been to some other different, meetings, in the Far East regions of Russia, in Central Asia, and, in China, there is an economic boom going on. Aysel Toji of the Nobel Institute in Norway, he described it as a golden era. I mean, what's going on all throughout these regions is, there are areas that are getting electricity and running water and being lit up. I mean, there's farming in the Russian Far East that has just taken off. And that whole part of the world is being, brought out of poverty and economically developed right now. And North Korea, because of the UN sanctions that were imposed on it for leaving the treaty, the Non-Proliferation Nuclear Treaty, because of that, North Korea is kind of like a big black hole right in the middle of this part of the world that Russia and China is working with many different, economic entities around the world to develop. And it's really only a matter of time before North Korea stops being a big black hole on that map and joins what's happening in the Far East regions and the exciting developments that are taking place. What's happening with China, what's happening with Russia, what's happening with Central Asia. North Korea is part of that, right? And it's only a matter of time before they get out of it. And I think that Donald Trump, being a smart businessman, realizes that. And he's hoping that when North Korea finally is able to get itself into a situation where it'll be able to fully rejoin the world economy and not be subject to all these sanctions, he's hoping that American corporations can get a slice of the pie. If you listen closely to Jim Rogers, the legendary investor who, if you go way back, has ties to George Soros, he was very, very excited about doing business in North Korea. He went on Fox News and many different outlets saying that it was time to do business with North Korea, talking about how, North Korea, for a country in that part of the world, it's a great place to invest. Why? There's 100% literacy in the country. That population is fully literate, fully educated. The country has vast mineral resources. If you're an American businessman or a tycoon, North Korea is a great place to do business. And really, if you listen to the conversation that's taking place in Central Asia and in the far eastern regions of Russia and in China and in the One Belt, One Road Initiative and the Eurasian Economic Union, it's only a matter of time before North Korea joins those endeavors. So I think Trump's thinking is he wants to make sure that the United States gets a slice of that, and that as North Korea opens up for investment, that it doesn't purely go only to Russia and China. I think that's Trump's long-term interest when it comes to these negotiations.